evening, Guyana, and welcome to our virtual program for Wednesday. My name is Savannah Wilson, and I am one of the youth leaders for Church of God 7th-day here in Guyana. And today, my topic is going to be applying yourself to the uncomfortable situations in life. Have you ever planned your day, your year, or even your life so beautifully and so structured, and then all of a sudden something pops up out of nowhere and disrupts your plan and cause you to feel disappointed, frustrated, and you even don't want to plan anything anymore? Now, the whole reason you actually you formulated your plan is to have a smooth flow, is to avoid any disappointments, any uncomfortable situations, but still something always pops up. So when we hit these different potholes in life, what do? Do we just relax? Do we just feel depressed? Do we just give up and stop planning and give up on all our dreams? No, we try to apply ourselves to the situation, to the new situation that we're in. And there's no other major thing that has stopped our plan for 2020 more than the pandemic. The pandemic has really disrupted a lot of plans and a lot of dreams. But I'm here to talk to you and to explain to you that in this, although that the pandemic has stopped and disrupted a lot of our dreams, it is all still possible with God. Once we try and once we learn to apply ourselves to the uncomfortable situations in life. Now, let us look at some definitions to grasp what I'm going to teach on today. Let's look at first application. Now, application can have different meaning depending on various contexts. It could be a computer program, it could be a request for a loan, or even a leave. But in today's context, application refers to the act of putting something to a special use or purpose. It could also mean implementation, it could mean utilization, it could mean execution. So let's look at now uncomfortable. Uncomfortable refers to a feeling of uneasiness, a feeling of unpleasantness, and it is a feeling that we can often refer to and relate to because a lot of time throughout our entire lives we are always placed in an uncomfortable situation that we are not familiar with, which may cause us, to be anxious, to be nervous, and we don't really understand the feeling that we're having. That describes an uncomfortable situation. So if it is that I am to break down this topic for us today, it is going to read finding different approaches to the uncomfortable situation in life that will allow and that will help you to flourish in that situation. It will read adapting, utilizing the resources that you have, whatever it is, to help you to battle your uncomfortable situation. You don't have to relax, you don't have to feel depressed in that situation. You can adapt, you can find ways to flourish right there, right in this pandemic. Your dreams are still possible. So, like I said, life is full of a lot of potholes and a lot of disrupted plans. It will lead you directly into an unfamiliar situation, and we need to be able to utilize resources and to help ourselves. I want us to look at Genesis 37. We'll be looking at the life of Joseph. We will be able to see how Joseph's life can relate to ours and how we can learn a lot from what he did when he was thrown into an uncomfortable situation. All right, so we'll be looking at Genesis 37. Now, you may be wondering, who was Joseph? Joseph is the 11th son of Jacob, and his story, like I said, is found throughout Genesis 37 to 50. Joseph was a 17-year-old shepherd. He is a bit of a tattletale, as we would call him, because he would usually bring bad report about his brothers to his father. He was that one sibling that we all had. I'm sure that we all had that one sibling that always used to complain about us whenever we do something wrong. So that was the kind of person Joseph was as a teenager. Now let's move on to Genesis 37, 3-4, and it reads, Now Israel, also named Jacob, loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. Also he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. So here we can see that Joseph had somewhat of a comfortable life because he had a tunic of many colors which his father presented to him to show his love and adoration for his son. He was loved, he was the favorite of all of his other siblings. So we can see Joseph had a comfortable life. All right. Now let's continue reading to see how Joseph's life spiraled out of control. Let's look at Genesis 37, 5-9. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream, which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed, your sheaf stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Verse 9, then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bow down to me." Again, we can see here that Joseph not only had a comfortable life, but he also had a gift. He had a gift of having certain type of dreams. This gift was still budding, and we will, as we continue the story, we will see what this gift really does and how it plays a part in Joseph's life and also his family life. Here we can see the life of Joseph starting to change. Change is something that we're all scared of. Personally, I don't like change, but I'm getting to, get accustomed to change and allowing change to happen and just looking positively at what change can do. So here we see Joseph's life being changed. He is getting prophetic dreams of his possible future. And from this here, we're going to develop our first point, which is change is inevitable, accepted positively. Change is inevitable, accepted positively. Change is going to happen. It has to happen. It's because of change. It's because of the process of change that we have a pregnant mother actually developing and growing a human in her womb and having to birth that beautiful bouncing baby boy or girl. That happened because change, because God allowed that change to happen. Change, another great example of change is when we see a seed growing into a plant and then into a tree, and then that tree actually bearing more fruits, and within those fruits we have seed. All of that is the process of change that needs to happen so that, for example, we can get photosynthesis, we can get oxygen. Change is something that happens all around us all the time, and we need to be able to allow it to happen and just look at it positively, view it from a positive lens. So, like I said, change help us to grow. Change help us to develop a good character, because through change, first, for example, I could have been a haughty person at first, but through situation, through change occurring in my life, I am now a humble person. That is just an example of change. Everything in life changes, everything. Season change, time changes. But the only two things that remains the same is God's word, and it's God himself. He will never change. In Hebrews 13:8, it is said, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He will forever be the same. And that is what we need to hold on to in this pandemic, that God will never change. His promises will remain the same. Apply yourself to your uncomfortable situation and understand that although all of these things are changing, although the ground is shifting, because next year, next 2 years, we will still be sanitizing, we will still be washing our hands, and all of these different things that is happening in 2020, it will still, because the ground has shifted, it will still go on for the future. So we just need to hold on to God and his promises and allow these changes to happen. Like I said, view it in a positive lens. Now let's continue with Joseph's story. Genesis 23, to 28, same Genesis 37, 23 to 28, we have, so it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat to eat a meal. Then they lifted up their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood?" Verse 27, "Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh." And his brothers listened. Then the Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up, lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. Here, now we can see the crucial point in this text. Joseph was betrayed by his brother. He was robbed of the chance to grow up with his family, to grow up in the environment where he knows, where he is accustomed to, where he's familiar with. He was robbed of this opportunity. So from his comfortable life with that tunic of colors, from just being a tattletale and his brothers, just being in the loving arms of his father, he was ripped, he was robbed from that opportunity, and he was thrown into the pit and now sold to slavery. Now tell me if that isn't an uncomfortable situation. I know for me, I would have been upset. I would have been really disappointed, and I don't know if I would have been able to get out of that pit or out of that situation. But Joseph, as we continue, we're going to see what Joseph does and how he applies himself to his situation. This is going to bring us to point number 2. Life is full of disappointments. Trust the process. Life is full of disappointments. Trust the process. Just like the disappointment Joseph felt when he was thrown into that pit, when he was betrayed by his brothers, just like that we are feeling in this pandemic, just like that we're feeling with the political issues, just like that we're feeling in our personal situation that we may have at home or at work or wherever it is. The same disappointment we are feeling right now, but we need to be able to trust the process. No matter the disappointment, no matter the extent of the viral outbreak, no matter how high the statistics are and how high they're getting, we need to understand that every plan, every promise that God has laid on our hearts, that God has promised us from the beginning of time, it is all still possible with Him and through Him. Learn to apply the knowledge you have of God and trust the process. When you're in your situation, no matter how tough you seem, you need to apply juicy, encouraging scriptures. For example, instead of just being depressed about what is going on, instead of just, stressing on all the bills that you may have, you can apply scriptures that is going to help to uplift you. It's going to help you to face that situation head on. That's going to give you the energy to work even harder to provide for your family. So we have some juicy scriptures such as Psalms 18:2. "The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength in whom I will trust, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." We also have Jeremiah 29:11, my personal favorite, which is, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, said the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." God wants to give us an expected end today. We just need to be able to keep the faith, to trust the process no matter the disappointment. We also have Deuteronomy 31:8. "And the Lord, He is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed." So a lot of more scriptures. You can even Google them. All of these different scriptures that is going to help to encourage you. Like I said, there's 2 things that will always remain the same, 2 things that will never change: God and His word. So stand on His word. All right, so let us continue with Joseph's story. Now, after he was sold to slavery, he ended up in Potiphar's house, officer of Pharaoh. Now, this can be found in Genesis 37, verse 36. We can see God's favor over Joseph's life. No matter from the pit to slavery, we can still continue to see God's favor every time on Joseph's life. The Bible said he found grace in his master's eyes and was placed as an overseer in his master's house. Look at that. A slave being an overseer, being the head of his master's house. Just look at God's favor and his mercy. Now that is going to bring us to our third point. Learn to manage creatively. If Joseph didn't had minor skills on managing, minor skills on how to balance his work with what he had to do for his master, with his spiritual life, he would not be able to actually be the head over his master's house. To apply yourself to uncomfortable situation, you must learn to manage many different things. You have to learn to manage time. Very importantly, you have to learn to manage money, and you have to learn to manage your emotions. Learn to balance your spiritual, your physical, and your emotional life, your mental life. All of those things must come in one to create you and to make you be able to focus and to apply yourself to the uncomfortable situations in life. So, in this time, when we're at home, let us focus on skills to either enhance or to learn. Skills are learned, and when it's learned and when it's focused on, and when you zoom into a specific skill, you can even create a business out of it. Let us focus on strengthening our relationship with our family members. Let us focus on restoring that relationship that we have with God and ourselves. When last have you just looked in the mirror and asked yourself, am I okay? Am I doing fine? Is there any repressed feeling that I'm having? Because when we don't take some time to look in and to check up on ourselves, it can cause us to be angry. It can cause us to be depressed, and we take so many times away from what we're supposed to be doing and all the things that we're supposed to be focusing on, and we're all depressed and we're all tired and we're all stressed out. Take some time to check up on yourself in this time. You have a lot of time now, so take some time to do that. In this time, let us restructure and refocus our goals. Your goals and your dreams are still possible in 2020. I can list at least 10 new businesses I have seen created just from this pandemic. I have seen persons adopt new skills. I've seen persons, for example, I am now a seamstress. I've only sewn but like 3 masks, and it was so good. I never knew that I really like sewing so much. I feel that I could sew a wedding dress and even start a business. That is just an example of how looking at yourself, looking at things that you can do in this time could help you to adapt to the situation and not just, be depressed. So we could see, for example, in Proverbs 6:6-11, I'm not going to read it, but you can read it on your own time. But the Bible says, consider the ants and his ways and be wise. The ants, for example, they store at one season and then they gather at another season at harvest time. And no one is there to say, ants, it's time for you to go and pick up this thing. It's time for us to store. No one says that. It's their nature, because they know that they have to store up for a specific season. They know that they have to go out and gather for another season. And those are teeny tiny ants. What about us that have a magnificent brain? What about us that have creativity, that have understanding, that have God on our side to say that we could look at him and that we could gain, certain experience and certain skills, that we could do so many different things in this time. So that is just an example of the ants and their ways. Consider the ants and be wise. Get creative in this time. Learn to manage your life better, like I said earlier. When last have you exercised? You don't have to exercise to lose pounds to fit in any beauty standard, but fit in your beauty standard. Do you want to lose a little weight? Do you want to slim down? What it is that you want to do? Exercise helps you to keep your mindset right. It actually boosts your confidence. So Joseph could have committed suicide in the pit. He could have, he could have tried to kill his brothers, tried to harm one of his brothers. He could have run away when they were taking him to Egypt, but he allowed everything to happen. I'm sure he was like, you know what, maybe there's something else on the other side for me. And there is something on the other side for him. You are built to flourish in uncomfortable situation. Your situation was not meant to harm you, but it was meant to build you. You can handle anything that comes your way. This pandemic is nothing compared to what God can do in your life and compared to what you can do in your own life when you apply yourself to your situation. So let us move on now to Genesis 39. Now Joseph was wrongfully accused of rape by Potiphar's wife and imprisoned. Once again, Joseph found himself in another uncomfortable situation. We can see here that Joseph is just trying to manage his master's house, because he's now getting comfortable. Okay, hey, this is what I'm going to have to live with. I'm just going to do what I have to do. But then again, another uncomfortable situation pops up. And that is what happens in life. After one phase comes another. As we would usually say, after one devil comes another and a bigger devil for us to face, or a bigger enemy. But that is okay because we have God on our side, and we are learning to apply ourselves to uncomfortable situations in life. But throughout everything, him being imprisoned and all of these things, God's favor and his mercy was always with Joseph. And that brings us to our fifth point. God's favor and his mercy is always with us no matter where we go. We just need to tap in to that source that is God. Our sixth point is going to be uncomfortable situation builds character. I repeat, uncomfortable situation builds character. Joseph is by far one of the most patient, and I'm going to say that again, one of the most patient character I have encountered in my Bible studies. Anytime anybody would have thrown me in prison for something that I didn't do, I would have been upset, disappointed, and I would have even called for a lawyer. But I don't think that Joseph had a lawyer in his day. But I'm just telling you that I would have been so angry with everything. But Joseph is building character through everything. He's built patience, and his leadership skills is going to increase from time to time, because even in prison, whenever you have time, you can read it in Genesis 39. You're going to see that Joseph was even put at a leadership position again in prison. And all of this is going to help Joseph in the long run. Unfamiliar situation builds you for your future. Before Joseph even got to the palace, he was already personally qualified to rule, manage assets, interpret dreams, and had an excellent character. And this is what God wants us to have at the end of this pandemic, so as to prepare us for next year. We're going to be patient set of people. We're going to be humble set of people. We're going to be a positive set of people, because no matter the statistics, we're going to keep looking forward to see what God has in store for us. Now, as we jump a bit further in Joseph's story, we're going to see in chapter 41, after 2 years, he was released to interpret a dream for Pharaoh. A dream no other man had the gift to interpret. A dream no other man, God has given the gift. Only Joseph, he is given the gift to interpret in the then time. With God's help, Joseph interpreted the dream and saved all of Egypt and even his brothers that betrayed him. Now tell me, if it is that Joseph, like I said, if, for example, if he had committed suicide in the pit, if he had tried to harm one of his brothers, run away, do something, what would have happened to all of Egypt in this time? What would have happened to his brothers? So the dream explained that there would have been a famine in the land. And Joseph interpreted that dream just in time so that all of Egypt could have prepared for this set famine. So we see here that our last and final point is going to be, there is a bigger picture. Focus on yourself in this time. Focus on God. Focus on things that you can do in this time, because there is a bigger picture out there for you. There's a bigger picture out there for me and for you. No matter what is going on in our community, there is a bigger picture. There's a bigger purpose to the pain. Don't fight God and his plan. Submit to his will. So God's plan is better than your understanding. Trust his process. He is looking to see how you handle and manage this phase of your life. In conclusion, I have a question. Have you ever stumped your toe whilst walking or accidentally fell into a pothole? And I'm sure that answer is yes. We have stumped our toe or fall down sometime or the other, whether it be riding, whether it be running. And what do our parents usually tell us? Well, my mom, she would say, all right, all of that is in the game. She's don't even pick you up. She's just say, all of that is in the game. Get up, dust off, and go again. And what do? As children, we do that. We get up, even if we have to cry bitter tears. We might get one into whitey, but we get up and we go again. Apply this same concept to 2020 and even further. Apply the same concept to your uncomfortable situation in life. Get up and go again. Many potholes are going to come about, but at least you fall down in one pothole, you know to step over the next. You know to be careful when riding. You know to be careful when running. You know that even if you fall again, you have to get up, dust off, and go again. Why? Because all of that is in the game. Apply yourself to your uncomfortable situations in life and look and see what God is going to do for you.